Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Holmes Movies podcast. The film that I am going to be talking about and reviewing is the new film from Trey Edward Schultz, starring Joel Edgerton and Riley Keough, Christopher Abbott, Carmen Ejogo, and Kelvin Harrison Jr. is called It Comes at Night. It takes place in a world that has been ravaged by a highly contagious disease, and we follow this family, well, two families, as they are struggling to survive. The film really hits the ground running. Not gonna lie, it just jumps right into it, just without any kind of exposition. We are introduced to Paul, played by Joel Edgerton, and his family. We see that they have boarded up their house, they're keeping to themselves, they don't really trust anyone else, and you see their routine of what they do when someone is infected with this disease and how they go about preventing it from spreading to themselves. Their house is broken into in the middle of the night. The intruder is a character by the name of Will, played by Christopher Abbott, and they reluctantly bring in him and his family. Joel Edgerton, who plays Paul, is really slowly turning into one of my favorite actors. He was really good at this father who would pretty much do anything to protect his family. At the beginning of the film, he pretty much does prove that, even though he's very reluctant to do so, he does do it, and Joel Edgerton does it brilliantly. He really could have been played as someone who was too tough and, wouldn't, care enough for his family, and, that would generally cause conflicts with his loved ones. But he turned out to be a very fair, tough, but a very fair person. And, he had love and humanity still in him, and he was able to show care and sincerity towards his son, Travis, played by Kelvin Harrison Jr. Kelvin Harrison Jr. hasn't been in that many films, but his performance in the movie was very strong, and he was really able to carry the emotional weight of the film. Through him, we see how he is being affected by living in this world, and we see this through his nightmares that he have, and the nightmares are quite terrifying, and they make really good use of basically no lighting. The only light is something that's on a torch, and the sounds of creaking wood and no sounds of like trees blowing and like being like wind blowing through the trees or anything like that. Like, it's though the dreams that he has like at various points in the films or through the film, are very well done and actually add to the sort of terror and really keeps the tension built up throughout the entire film. Riley Keough and Carmen Ejogo round up the female cast members, and I was a little bit disappointed in that they weren't given that much to do in the film. They were good, and they show, really good acting chops, but the problem was they weren't given that much to do. Carmen Ejogo, who plays Sarah, Paul's wife, isn't really given that much to do apart from being a supportive mother and, caring for her son. And, they have, there's some really nice scenes between her and Paul, and where they talk about, what maybe you shouldn't, get Travis to see all these things, and Paul saying like he has to learn and do all this stuff. But it was very smart from Trey Edward Schultz's writing and directing that he showed that she was willing to pick up a gun and protect her family along with Paul and not hide away and things like that. So that was good. So she got given that, but it would have been nice to have a bit more development in her character. Riley Keough, who is a bit of an indie darling from films like Love Song, American Honey, and also big budget films like Mad Max Fury Road. She played one of the wives in the film that Charlize Theron she's trying to save. Her and Kelvin Harrison Jr. had some really nice tender scenes together, but the problem was it didn't really go anywhere. While watching the film, it made me think two things. One, maybe a lot of their scenes ended up on the cutting room floor for pacing purposes, and maybe it made the film too long, or it was unnecessary, or Trey Edward Schultz really did know what to do with him when he was going into the second act with the film. And this is where I feel the film gets problematic. The film sets up this notion that something is gonna come at night. the trailer made it seem like it was your usual modern day jump scare horror film, but its post-apocalyptic woodland setting was what sold me on the film. And also the poster with the dog staring out into the darkness and staring out at something, I don't know, but it's something, obviously, that's going to come at night because it's dark. Excuse me. I generally felt like there was something was going to pop up, given that the title of the film is called It Comes at Night. Like, all these shots of the woods, like, it zooms in, and you're like, at moments when I was watching the film, I felt like, is there something there? I don't know. It's like, I felt like I saw something, and maybe there was going to be some build up to it and some sort of conclusion in that, and maybe there was someone out there. Like, there's a scene where Paul comes into Travis's room, and he sees that he's drawing someone, and he's drawing, like, these really kind of creepy Mike Mignola kind of characters with these sort of like goggles, like gas masks. Like they all wear gas masks and gloves to protect themselves from the virus when they go outside. For me, Trey Edward Schultz really missed an opportunity in playing up the post-apocalyptic paranoia. I mean, given how dark and dimly lit the lighting and the cinematography was from Drew Daniels, who did an amazing job, it really could have developed on that and really made for a more unsettling experience. Trey, Drew, and the rest of the crew made a film that makes you feel very terrified. And a lot of it, and a lot of what happens in the film, leaves a lot to the imagination, which can prove to be unsettling and at the same time frustrating. Like, the film is bleak. The film, I was doing a bit of a Donald Trump there with my hands. Like the film is bleak, okay? It's very, very bleak. It's so bleak, okay? We gotta fix it, okay? The world is bleak. Everything's pretty much dead. We don't really see what's happening out in the rest of the world, but we kind of get the impression everything is fucked. When the movie was over, I was sitting in the theater and I was basically like, oh, it's over? Like, the movie's... like, I know I see the credits, but is it actually over? There's no... Should I go? Like, okay, I'll go. I don't know, like, I really felt like it left me really wanting more, and it just... I just didn't really... It felt like it just ended at a wrong point, and I felt like it just kind of like, okay, it went there, and it was like, oh, shit, and then it just like, it's done. No more. Film's over. And then you're feeling a little bit like, wow, okay. I mean, I like where they went, but I really wanted to see them do a little bit more with, use what they had and just, go up with it or something. Now, this in no way shows that Trey Edward Schultz is a weak director. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't think he had a really clear idea of what he wanted to do going towards the end of the film when, the film got over the halfway point and was going into the second act of the movie. I mean, the film did leave me wanting more, but I feel like I got enough. But given how the film was marketed through the trailers and, how it was shown, how it was marketed on posters, and also the title itself, it didn't leave me as satisfied and film nourished. It left me thinking I wanted something a little bit more from the film than there already was. For me, it really showed how important trailers and your title of your film are. And, for someone like me who's really interested in films and wants to make them. But, I mean, I have to say, I did like the film. I had some problems with it, but at the end of the day, I think everyone who worked in the film, from the cast and the crew, did a really good job. And I don't know if it should be marketed as a horror film. Maybe it should be marketed as a thriller, drama. But, I mean, a film with horror elements, much in the same way like Silence of the Lambs. I have to say it was a really good job, and I look forward to seeing more of Trey Edward Schultz in the future and more of the cast and crew, because I feel like they all did a really amazing job and they made very good use of their location. But like I said, I was left feeling like I wanted a little bit more out of the film and what they showed, and I wanted, more development out of the characters and out of sort of the setting, and more of a threat than the disease and their own cabin feverish paranoia. But yeah, I mean, it made for a very unsettling experience. So I was satisfied in that way, just not in some of the elements that I mentioned. All right. Well, that concludes another episode of the Holmes Movies podcast. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podomatic, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as a few other podcasting sites, which you can find out about on our Twitter page at Holmes Movies Pod. And we also have an email address, so do send us your queries or anything like that, or if you want us to review a film, at holmesmoviespodcast@gmail.com. I also have a Twitter page, my own Twitter page, which is at Fabricius91, Fabricius 91. And I also have an Instagram page, Anders.f.holmes, which you can follow. I have a lot of photos on there, which I pretty much take photos of everything, mostly food, because that's kind of what I'm also interested in. Thank you very much for listening and for tuning in. I've been Anders Holmes. Have a good day.